everybody. Welcome to episode 1 of Vintage Media Grading, the podcast. I'm Andrew Hoffman, and I have here with me 3 vinyl enthusiasts, experts, and the 3 founders of VMG, Chad Brayman, Paul Brayman, and Butch Harwood. Hello, gentlemen. How are we doing tonight?
Doing great.
Great.
How are you?
Doing well. Things are starting to cool down here in Maryland, so getting ready for fall. Not ready for the summer to end yet, though. So just preparing myself and bracing. Cool. So we're really excited to get this podcast launched. This episode today is going to be about the basics of vinyl record collecting and grading, and so we are just kind of going to go over the topic of grading vinyl records and share some of our experience with grading and encapsulating the records as well. Just to kind of go over who VMG is and what we do. VMG is a vinyl record grading and encapsulation company. We go beyond just grading and encapsulating vinyl records, though. We have supportive services that are actually helpful for any collector that's out there. You don't have to be someone who wants to have your records encapsulated. These services include ultrasonic cleaning of your vinyl records, sticker removal, shrink cleaning, dry cleaning, all sorts of different features. We also do soft grading, so that way you don't have to commit to locking up your records in a piece of plastic. So that's all good stuff. We also venture into NFTs. That's another subject for another podcast upcoming. We're going to try to pump these out regularly, and our next episode is going to be about the question, are records made to be played or collected? We're going to be actually touching on some of those topics, I think, today in this podcast, and then we'll drill down a little bit further in the next episode. So
before we tease too much with that, I just want to be clear to everyone before we get hate mail and the chat on the bottom starts pinging like crazy. I think we're all in agreement that vinyls, it's both, right? It's meant to be played and collected.
Yeah.
So I don't want anyone to think that we're trying to push anyone one way or the other.
Yeah, it's going to be a very neutral topic. Very neutral.
Sounds terribly boring to not be arguing about it. We need to set up some sort of argument.
We can argue. So speaking of arguing, what are we drinking tonight, guys? What are we having?
I am drinking a fresh Coors Light right now. Yep.
Nice.
Which is important that it's cold because it's about 1,000 degrees in this room right now, mostly because I refuse to let my wife turn the air conditioning on. I'm sweating. It's so hot.
I open Sam Adams Wicked Easy.
Nice.
Kind of my go-to drink for the summer. End of
That's
summer.
So
Not
New,
ready for fest yet.
So New England of you, Paul.
Yeah.
Wicked easy. What about you, Chad? Are you drinking anything?
No, mine is very weak. I have a Gatorade Zero here.
Those are good too. I'm drinking a cab. I'm going old guy cab with my vinyl records. It's my tradition. I like to drink Cabernet when listening to vinyl, and but do you drink when you play your records? There's some guys with a policy. They say no drinking when I'm playing records because they've either had a bad experience dropping something on their turntable or dropping their needle on their records. Do you guys listen and drink, or do you kind of keep the two separate?
Oh, I listen and drink for sure. Yeah.
I love
turntables in the
beer. Do anything.
Cool.
Pool table down here, and the kids come down, throw records on, and listen. They obviously don't drink, but I'll drink while they're listening.
I actually had, for a while, I had set up my turntable, and I had set up in our bookshelf a couple of taps that go through the keg, and I did that right before COVID. Actually, I did it like 2 years before COVID. Sadly, never bothered to clean out the actual tubes that went from the keg to the taps. And by the time I was drinking in COVID, I was like one drink was making me hallucinate. I'm pretty sure there was rather, various fungi in there. And now I want to refill the tap, but I refuse to take the time to clean it out. So it's just, I actually looked at it the other day. I opened it up. Absolutely disgusting. So I recommend if you come over, try the tap.
It's an expensive decoration at this point.
Yes, it is expensive decoration.
I'll bring my own drinks if that's okay with you, Butch. Okay. So, we've already talked about how we're vinyl record collectors. But something that we were actually talking about is the fact that we all collect for a different reason, right? There are guys who collect only shellac 78s. And there's some guys then who have a subcategory of shellac 78s that are like blues. And then there's even more subcategories, blues from a certain area. That's the case with vinyl collectors all over. We all have that thing that we like to collect when it comes to vinyl. It's what switches us on. It's what gets us to escape our week and really enjoy what we're collecting. So what is it that you guys collect? Like, what is it that makes you want to go on eBay or go to the record stores or go to the auction sites and find a record and pick it up?
I'll start. I think all three of us, not Drew, but Chad, Paul, and I all grew up in the best town in the United States, Westerly, Rhode Island. By the way, also part-time home to my nearby neighbor, Taylor Swift, who we're going to mention this on every podcast until she comes on the podcast.
We'll get her on the podcast. Episode 5. It's going to be episode 5.
Aggressive. That's aggressive, but we'll see. Yeah, so, I started out, I was born in 79. Chad was born in 79. Paul in, 80-something.
82.
Yeah, we all started, listening to heavy metal as kids. Grunge, and we all obsessed over CDs, collected them all together. I was, in Chad's house basically 2 or 3 times a week, every week since 10th grade. We would play these albums, and frankly, once I got old enough to have a job, I just wanted every album I ever had as vinyl because it was so cool to me. I'd never seen these albums as vinyl, a lot of the 90s ones. And then I started getting into the nostalgia of wanting all those 80s hair metal bands, which I did have as vinyl. And then when I started getting them, I started being annoyed they weren't in perfect condition. So I had to get other ones. And then I started getting annoyed that the sleeve wasn't in perfect condition. So I had to get other ones. And then I started getting annoyed that, is it really perfect condition if it's not sealed? So I had to buy them sealed. So it's a OCD. But, it's always been, I'll admit it. My love of vinyl is 80% the collecting of the item and 20% the sound, as opposed to the other way around. And I enjoy putting them on the turntable and listening as much for the actual process of doing it as I do for the sound. I just love having the vinyl record. I love having the sleeve. I love looking at it. I love the process of putting it on. I love thinking that I'm doing something that is just so nostalgic and cool, and thinking for, a second that I'm actually cool.
You are cool. That's
wow.
So you collect cards though too, right? So you
collect cards. Obsessed over, and then same deal. Like we grew up in the junk wax era of just mass produced baseball cards, and then when you're a kid, you don't have any money. So if you can get a pack of 1991 Fleer for 50 cents, you spend your 50 cents on it. And then you find out in 2001 that those are completely worthless and mass produced. But then in, 10 years later, you have a job and you go out and buy, 1991 Fleer cards and 91 Upper Deck and 1989 Tops and all this stuff that you didn't have. The difference being, of course, that, when you're old and reliving your junk wax nostalgia, the beauty is that those things are super cheap. Whereas when you're old and trying to buy all the grunge albums on vinyl, they are not cheap at all. They're actually super expensive, which kind of stinks. But yeah, and then that kind of got me into the obsession of, owning every player I ever wanted and ever liked and making sure they were in perfect condition and getting this OCD obsession.
Cool.
And when you say, Butch, when you were saying you buy a pack and then when you got a job, now you could buy cards you always wanted. You didn't buy a pack. You bought cases.
I actually bought some guys, a few guys' actual baseball card stores, and stuck them in my basement. And so now my basement is a literal pile of baseball cards. I shouldn't say that in case anybody is dying for 1991, dying to break in to get 70,000 1991 Upper Deck Scott Erickson, rookies. They might want to break in to get a pile of worthless cards.
Your wife may actually leave the door unlocked and welcome.
She might. Yeah, she might. And and I'm not joking. I probably have 1991 Upper Deck Chipper Jones. I probably have 100 of that card. And if I go to a yard sale and see a pile of cards and I happen to find 1991 Upper Deck Chipper Jones, I still get pumped up. So pumped up.
I know this is a vinyl podcast, but
yeah.
Is there anything, the smell of an Upper Deck pack?
Nothing better. Maybe the smell of like 94 Donruss, but I don't know if you were still like, when baseball cards got super glossy, those smelled good too. Those smell fantastic.
I can smell it right now. The smell of
fantastic. I might just go to bed with it on my pillow.
And I actually love the smell of a brand new vinyl record too.
There you go, bringing it back.
Especially the gatefold. Like you can open up the gatefold, and while you hear it cracking, you can smell the printing on it, and it just smells so good. You're home at that point. All right, so now that we have heard from the Scrooge McDuck of junk wax up there, what about you, Chad? What do you collect?
So my collecting is very opposite of Butch. Butch is really into similar in the fact that the pop culture and the stuff we grew up on, but I'm not into the volume. I'm into specific first pressings, early albums of artists that you may recognize that you didn't know were in some other band. To me, I find that exciting. I like researching and looking for, the first time somebody was on an album. Like Dr. Dre is my recent obsession, that hit the band that he was in the mid 80s and released a bunch of albums. I find fascinating that the Chronic sells for, $1,000, $500, depending on the condition. And it's his most popular album, what made Dr. Dre the pop culture figure he is. But in '84, he released, he was part of this band called the World Class Wrecking Crew, and released a bunch of singles and an album. And those you could get for $20 right now. And I just find that, to me, that's interesting. I mean, do I know any of those songs? No, but it's it's going back to, like Butch talked about, his baseball card collecting. I was also a big sports card collector, and the only thing that I wanted were rookie cards. And it started out same thing. Once I had a little bit of money and a job, I can go back and get all the cards I always wanted and couldn't afford. Then once they were on eBay all the time, it was like they're always there, and it was just a matter of, do I want to spend the money or not? I found it a lot more interesting to, instead of paying a ton of money for a baseball card, $1,000, $10,000, whatever it was, I could get a Muhammad Ali rookie card that nobody was looking for like $200. So then it really started this other weird obsession of looking for the greatest in a certain sport that was outside of the major collectible sports. And I could get the biggest name, like people that my wife knew. They were pop culture figures. And for like pennies on the dollar at the time. And that's actually caught up. Like other people now are collecting, boxing cards, wrestling cards, tennis, golf. The same thing stuck with vinyl, where I wanted the first time somebody was on a record, or a band that they were in before they were popular. Things off the beaten path. I mean, it's not only that. Like I want 10 and the stuff I grew up on, but the thing that I really enjoy is finding early pressings that, one, it's naturally rare. Like a lot of times these bands and the albums that they're on is not necessarily that great and didn't make it. They didn't have commercial success, so it's just naturally limited. So it's hard to find. So in my mind, I couple that with the fact that you have somebody that has millions and millions of fans, and the first time they were on an album wasn't successful, and there may only be a couple hundred or 1,000 of those, and even fewer in good condition.
It's really
Chad,
cool.
you know what would be a great idea is if someone wrote an article, a series of articles about rookie albums, and put it on a website, like our website. And actually, there are 3. Well, I started that series about 6 months ago, and then installment number 4 is about 4 months late, but it's getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, those articles are very informative. Go to vmgvinyl.com and check out the article section. And I really like where you're going with that, Chad, because we don't really hear much about the rookie cards. Like, we hear about, the David Bowie album that Stevie Ray Vaughan played on before he was really famous, and things like that. We know of the Harry Belafonte album that has the first appearance of Bob Dylan, things like that are kind of commonly known in vinyl world, music world, but we don't hear very often a collector really just seeking out those first appearances.
Right,
so it's really cool.
This one recently, which is a sealed Men in Black rookie, Beyonce rookie. No, that's Beyonce's rookie card or rookie.
That's
album.
cool. That's very cool.
Something I definitely want to do. I would find it interesting. I would listen to it and Paul can get into what he collects in a minute. But since we all have different interests that we want, I think it'd be fun to pick a band or an artist, and then we come to the table with which record we would want for our collection. And I bet there would be a lot of situations where we pick an artist and we could come with 4 different albums for 4 different reasons. Some maybe, we all pick the same one, but I think that'd be an interesting conversation for a future podcast for sure.
Yeah. So if anyone has any suggestions on what artists we should be reviewing from our 4 different perspectives, send it to us. Go onto our website, fill out the information form, send us a note, go down in the comments section, wherever you're watching this from. Try to contact us and let us know what you would like to see. Yeah, I think that'll be.
I know I speak for Paul. I don't know about Drew and Chad, but I love when someone gives me a recommendation for a band, a new band, something to listen to. Love it. So we would, even if you think we've never heard of them, we'll dive in.
Cool. Yep, absolutely. Paul, why do you collect? What do you look for?
So my collecting is a little bit different than Chad and Butch's. I'm not like a super high-end collector. I collect mostly just stuff that I like. So I first got into records, about 20 years ago when Chad and Butch and I and a group of other friends actually were on an email chain that we would constantly email back and forth. This is way before texting. And people were doing their top 500 song countdowns. And that's what we each did, like our own top 500. And from there, I started looking at records for some of the songs that I liked, which was mostly 90s stuff, grunge era stuff, a lot of classic rock, some blues, mostly rock in general. But there was one record called Deep Six. It was a record that was kind of the start of the grunge era. That was the first Soundgarden songs were on there, a couple other grunge kind of icons started on Deep Six, and that started my obsession with vinyl. Was trying to find that record on vinyl, and it was before Discogs. It was early eBay, where not tons and tons of vinyl were on eBay, and I actually tracked the record down by getting in contact with the owner of CZ Records at the time. Sent him an email, asked him if he had any Deep Six records, and he had a couple sealed ones. I sent him a money order through the mail for 2 Deep Six records, and he sent me 2 of them, and they're in really mint sealed condition. It's one of the 3 or 4 sealed records that I have in my collection that I just never opened. So I'm an open collector. I don't collect anything sealed. I have very few sealed records because I listen to stuff, but I like seeing the record. So even if I don't listen to it, I still like seeing the vinyl, opening it, looking at it, and then putting it back on the shelf, basically, for a lot of the records. So mostly classic rock, mostly grunge. I have my parents' record collection, which was all classic rock, tons of Black Sabbath, Doors, The Who, Beatles, stuff like that. Some first editions, some reissues, combination of stuff. For my own personal collection, I look for mostly first, early editions or first pressings. The new thing that I've been getting into is kind of pop culture records. I've been buying a lot of 80s soundtracks from just 80s movies I like. So what I've been doing is The Goonies, for example, one of my favorite movies growing up. I bought the Select-Division video disc I've been buying of 80s movies, which is, I don't know if people have really heard of Select-Division. It's kind of the Betamax of Laserdiscs is how I kind of explain it. And they're super cheap. I buy the Select-Division and then the first pressing of the soundtrack. So that's my new weird collection, worthless, but just something I like looking for. So that's kind of my new obsession right now.
That's awesome. But that's what keeps you going, right? It's really awesome.
What you didn't tell Drew was you sold me one of the Deep Six albums that you bought. Probably got it for $20, sold it to me for $100.
Yeah.
And it was for Secret Santa for Butch, and it's behind him up there.
It's right here on the wall. Yeah. I was just gonna ask, was that one of the ones that you bought from?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
That's great from
actually not gifted to me by Chad, but actually gifted to me by Paul and Chad's 100-year-old grandfather.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so that record came right from Daniel House, who was the bass player for Skin Yard. So he plays on the record. So it's from his warehouse.
And maybe I'm wrong that you first learned about that album when you took your bachelor party to the hub of bachelor parties. Which, I mean, some people go to Las Vegas, some people go to Cancun, some people go to Miami. Paul's bachelor party, which was 10 dudes, went to Cleveland, Ohio, actually, for your bachelor party.
To go to museums.
That album was up on the wall. They had a grunge Seattle thing going on.
Like
there.
A special.
That's the first time I ever saw. I didn't even know that album existed until we were there.
Yeah.
So there's only 2,000 pressings of it. One's in the Hall of Fame, and we have 2 other ones.
Yeah.
So.
And we were in Cleveland. We were in Cleveland for Memorial Day weekend. I don't remember the year, but we were walking the streets, and I'm not kidding. We were the only people at Memorial Day weekend in the entire city of Cleveland. Anywhere, there was nobody there. Everyone else had the chance to get out.
No offense to any of our listeners in Cleveland.
But you don't think of Cleveland as being the hot spot for a bachelor party.
No, we just lost Cleveland, Sarah. So.
We had a blast. We had a blast in Cleveland. Cleveland's
it was great. Yeah.
Good.
So with the Football Hall of Fame, you forgot to wear a shirt.
I knew he was going to say that.
Imagine going to the Hall of Fame. Went to take his jacket off and realized he forgot to wear a shirt. So
despite Cleveland not being the most exciting place on earth, I was terribly, terribly hungover, and I had like a zip up on that I just threw on to grab like coffee and like a continental breakfast. Then we just left, and I forgot to put a shirt on.
What are you gonna do?
It happens, right? So I collect. I'm a big time listener, but I'm an audiophile through and through. I just always have honed my ears to wanting to hear the most amount of detail, the most amount of dynamics. I really want to listen to an album and have that kick drum literally kick me in the gut. That feeling is the same kind of feeling that you get at a concert, and that's what I'm going for. I had my sound system, my hi-fi system, custom made for me. It's all tube, it just super transparent, super basic. I want, I'm a minimalist. I want the least amount of things in the signal chain, and that way I can, just really hear the music. So for me, the pressings matter. So when I'm buying records, I, like to buy multiples of the same record, but not the same pressing. I want to hear different pressings and audition them to be able to find the best sounding one. And that's something that just, when I get that album that is just super compressed and super thin, and then I can listen to the same album and have it be just completely opened up, and there's a feeling that is unmatched. It's definitely an adrenaline rush. My latest pickup right here is the UHQR copy of John Coltrane, Love Supreme. And I mean, this thing, it has it's gold leafed. It has a wooden dowel here for the spine. It's numbered. It's limited. And it's expensive, but what you get for that price is audio quality that you just can't ever compare to. So those are the things that I like to listen to. So I follow a lot of the labels that are the audiophile labels. I know there's been a lot of controversy over the Mobile Fidelity stuff, but I like listening to Mobile Fidelity, certain ones. Some I'm not crazy about. I did pick up a large part of the Weezer discography on Mobile Fidelity, and I have the guy who sold it to me was like, yeah, Pinkerton, for some reason the hand number must have, they forgot to put it on. But then I contacted the guys at MoFi, and they said that it's actually a promo copy. So I thought it was kind of cool to have a promo copy of a MoFi record for Weezer Pinkerton. But I'm just like the three of you all. I'm into the 90s alternative grunge, late 80s, early 90s. I love that stuff. And unfortunately, you are right. It is very expensive to pick up. But surprisingly, you would not think of grunge music as being music that sounds good. But man, you put Nirvana Nevermind on my system, and if it's the right pressing, it'll blow your mind. I mean, the way that they designed and engineered that kick drum microphone setup is just phenomenal. And there's all kinds of stories about that. Like they put this big tube in front of the bass drum, and they did all kinds of crazy things. I actually interviewed Steve Albini a couple years back on the Nirvana In Utero album, because that's another one that is just amazing. And he did some work for the Pixies. He did work for Slint. So I was really focused on that Slint Tweez album. That thing just sounds phenomenal. So really good sounding music came out of the 90s. And what's surprising is that a lot of these people were recording on digital tape. They weren't all analog. So that's another discussion for another podcast, the whole digital analog thing for me, and for many of the listeners. But I'm just chasing what sounds really, really good. So what's neat about this conversation is that we're seeing 4 different perspectives as to why we collect, and we know there are many more reasons why people collect vinyl. We would love to hear why you collect vinyl, what gets you moving, what gets you going, what you look for in your vinyl collection. But we all have that mission that we're on. So what we're doing here as a company is we're trying to take that vinyl record collecting world that we're in and elevate it to a new level. Just like we talked about with trading cards, right? Just like we have seen with comic books and coins and video games, VHS tapes. Everybody's doing it. So we're doing this for vinyl records and really adding a new layer to this category of collecting. But there's through this part of the journey here, I'd say it's I've been doing vinyl record grading professionally as a business since 2017, 2018. And I don't know if this is a popular thing that you all have heard when you first started out as well, before we merged, but people are saying that vinyl records are mint condition, but then when we get them, they have a saw cut in it, or they have third-party stickers all over it, or There's issues with the shrink. I love going on Discogs and saying, it's near mint, it's sealed, and then you get it, and like the shrink is sealed. Like they've never really pulled the vinyl out of the sleeve, but there's like a granule of shrink wrap covering the opening where the record goes, and then the rest of it's just garbage. So some people are kind of wondering, like, why does a sticker affect the grade? Why does a hole punch affect the grade? That's been like some of our most common feedback. So we wanted to kind of just dive into that a little bit, demystify things like stickers, hole cuts, just overall condition grading. So we can kind of go into this and share our perspective on those different categories of grading, and then see what you think in the comments in reply to this podcast. So let's jump into stickers. We all love our hype stickers, right? So hype stickers are cool. A lot of times it helps us do our job because one hype sticker can identify a period in time that record was pressed in. So it really helps us with identifying and authenticating the submission. But we're specifically talking about third-party stickers. So what do we mean by third-party stickers? I'm going to just ask you guys, what do we mean by this?
Yeah, it's mostly price tags that is what I see for third party, and sometimes it's a little sticker gun price tag that literally all it is a price tag.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't really cool. There are some cool third party stickers from like a department store that was maybe in your town that closed 50 years ago, and it has that logo on it. It's cool, but it's not original to the album, and that's why it affects the grade in our opinion. Especially if it's dirty, it's wrinkled, it's ripped, things like that. It may be cool and nostalgic, but it's not original to the album, and it's different on that album in different parts of the country. It's not going to have that same sticker like it would a hype sticker. It doesn't mean it automatically makes the grade poor. It's just one of the factors that we factor in when we grade shrink.
Yeah, because you have like yard sale stickers, you have library stickers or radio station stickers I've seen to catalog the record.
Sticker, you always see that circle price saver sticker.
Yeah.
Super common one, and a lot of it is, I think, and I could speak for Chad too, because we've talked about this. But when we first started getting into like grading of cards and comic books and stuff like that, we it was always kind of annoying to us that, here I got this card out of a pack. Like I didn't make it off-centered and I didn't bend the corner, but still it was off-centered and the corner was bent. So when I would send it to PSA or whatever, it didn't get a 10. And the grades are not necessarily really a reflection on you as the owner. It really is a reflection on what a buyer would want. And a 10 has to be perfect. And so, by no means is the original consumer of the album at fault because an album has a price tag on it. But at the same time, an album with an ugly price tag on it, an album without a price tag on it, which one is actually better? Which one is more valuable? Which one is in better condition? Which one is prettier? Which one is more likely to universally be wanted by everybody? So you have to consider that, if a perfect album with an ugly sticker on it is a 10, well then what is a perfect album without that sticker on it? It can't, the first one can't be a 10. And I think, once you kind of get past the idea that a grade is a reflection on you as the submitter or as the owner of the album, it's not. It's just it's an objective measure of what the album is and how perfect is it compared to absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect is 10. And a lot of that, if you go on eBay, and I use eBay instead of Discogs because you can see the pictures of the albums. Yeah. And for sealed, high-priced albums, albums with lots of stickers on them go for less. And albums with, and we're going to get to saw cuts and corner cuts and hole punches, they go for significantly less. So,
that was well said, Butch. And it's not that is not necessarily that we're trying to say what you should collect or what you should want. It's really to just have an objective grade of the album, and then the consumer pick what they want. So
Right.
I personally am not a fan of third-party stickers. And Drew, we went back and forth on this a little bit. You and I get it. I understand the charm of it all, and even if it's a great-looking sticker, I would prefer to own an album without a sticker and maybe a slightly more round corner or something like that. So we don't want to confuse the marketplace and have label something a 10 and then you buy it and there's a sticker on it, because there are some people that don't want a sticker. It's really to just reflect the condition of the album, and that's it. And then the market or the buyers and the sellers, you guys figure out what you want and what you want to buy. And if you want something without a sticker, then you're looking for a 10 or something. And if you like stickers, because I get it, and they do look cool, and there are some, but like our local, if there was a Fisher Big Wheel stamp, a local department store that went out of business probably 30 years ago, which Butch has a strange obsession over. But
I'd pay a premium for a Looney Tunes sticker on a
right. I would pay up for I would pay up for a Looney Tunes sticker.
Yeah,
on
Looney Tunes being a Westerly Westerly record store. There's another thing, and it's important when it comes to grading, and it's important when it comes to integrity. And it seems like such a weird thing to say, but it's real. If you think about it, if a third-party sticker doesn't impact the album, then why wouldn't you just be able to stick any sticker you wanted on the album and send it in? Suppose the album had a big scuff on it. Well, then you could improve the grade just by sticking a sticker on it and sending it in. If Kmart puts a sticker on it and it doesn't impact the album, then why would you putting a sticker on it not impact the album? The album is affected either way. And so, to understand that having a sticker that wasn't supposed to be on the album, if you were to say, well, that doesn't impact the grade, well, then anybody could stick a sticker on an album, and you could just stick a price tag on an album.
Yeah.
And say, oh, I didn't impact the grade. But you can't stick a price tag on a comic book, and you can't stick a price tag on a baseball card. You can't stick it and send it in and expect it's going to get a grade. PSA grades baseball card packs, and you can send in a pack with a sticker on it, but they won't give it more than a 7. It's just they won't.
And
we're not saying that collecting things with stickers or something with a sticker on it or less collectible. We get the charm of it, and some people like collecting price tags. They like seeing how much something costs in 1963.
And you know what? As someone who would love a Looney Tunes or Big Wheel price tag, the fact that it would get a lower grade and I'd be able to buy it probably for cheaper would probably slightly extra.
What can I be bidding each other up if there's ever a Looney Tunes album with a Looney Tunes sticker? But a Looney Tunes sticker though, which I actually really want that now. But Drew would have no interest in that Westerly record store. So part of the reason is it's also really to make, I don't want to say our job easier, it's to be repeatable. Like we have to have specific criteria that is black and white, not, in my opinion, the sticker looks awesome, I'm going to give this a 10. Butch may hate the sticker and say it's an 8 or 7 or 6. It's too gray. There's infinite different possibilities of what a sticker would look like. So we made the decision to say third-party stickers. So people, and over time, it would become second nature, similar to all the other grading categories of cards and things like that, where you understand what's what. That we said third-party stickers are an imperfection to the overall album. It's not a 10. So subgrade of the shrink, it's going to, the highest the shrink could get on that piece is a 7. But if everything else on the shrink is pristine, maybe it's a 7.5 or something like that. But it is going to pull it down a bit.
Here's an example. I got this at Goodwill, and Purple Rain, early pressing, but it has this like partial. You can't really see it, but a partial price tag there on the corner, and then it has this sticker here that must have been like a price identifier or something. Then we have the really cool hype. Has the poster, it's in gorgeous condition, has the inner sleeve, gorgeous condition, vinyl's in great condition, still in the original shrink, and has the hype sticker. But I mean, even if this had so you all were talking about Looney Tunes or whatever, but our local store was Camelot or Waxy Maxi, and I would go in. I would love to have a record with one of those stickers on it, but in this particular case, I probably wouldn't want any of those stickers on it, because with this iconic artwork, I don't want anything taking away from the visual eye appeal of the front cover.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have these stickers removed.
Sometimes the placement of price stickers are terrible, like right over the face of
I was just going to say that.
Over titles,
it's
over words.
Yeah, and that does get into grading, and we've mentioned this on our rubric that there is a little bit of eye appeal to it, and if someone takes that Purple Rain hype sticker and sticks it right over Prince on his motorcycle, that kind of stinks. I mean, people aren't going to want that. That really can't be it. That would impact the grade. You'd have a hard time being a 10 if someone had stuck the hype sticker right over Prince and you can't even see him. It would be tough.
Where would you not want the hype sticker on Nevermind, Butch?
We have
to cut that out.
Well, I've actually seen a copy of Nevermind with a Super Saver sticker over the baby's face.
Yeah,
and it just completely killed the front cover of that record. Right. And that that client didn't want the sticker removal, but and that's a good demonstration as to why the hype stickers are okay. First of all, it's what the artist or the label wanted for the release. And if you look at any of these Prince releases, the hype sticker is going to be about in this location every time.
Right.
That's where they wanted that hype sticker. And it's actually going to add to the front cover rather than take away. You can notice that in the Led Zeppelin 2.
Yeah.
They always put that Whole Lot of Love hype sticker all the way to the left in that empty brown area.
Right.
So
you could imagine that, just like with baseball cards, putting or comic books, putting these things together, ultimately they are approved and done by machines and humans. And you could imagine that someone somewhere has gotten a Prince album with a hype sticker is in a terrible spot. Just like, you might have gotten a Cal Ripken rookie where it was just cut terribly. And, it just kind of stinks that would be the case, that you would get that. I mean, I think we just had an album. I think it was Legend with Bob Marley, where the sticker was stuck right on his face. And I was like, oh God, I mean, I love that album. And, but someone had sent it in with the sticker was in a terrible spot. Yeah. And it kind of was too bad.
So with stickers, we've covered how we look at stickers, third-party stickers, predominantly. How does this relate to saw cuts, corner cuts, and hole punches? So if you don't want to know what I'm talking about, here's an album with a corner cut. You probably have seen the saw cut slice in the sleeve. CDs also have had that. And then sometimes you'll see like a punch hole, or a drill hole through one of the corners. Yep. There's arguments out there for both sides of the story, but how do we feel about the saw cut, hole punch, and corner cut conundrum?
Yeah, so that's kind of a whole different animal than price stickers, because that's actually damage, and everyone can say but it's factory done damage, so it shouldn't affect the grade. But damage is damage. If you get an off-centered card, it's off-centered from the factory, but it still affects the grade. So the thing with a saw cut in a punch record is that in addition to those cut and punch records, there's also records that don't have punches and cuts in them. So if you have one of those pristine ones before it was sent back to the factory for overstock, then that has to be a higher grade than the one with no corner. So that's where we went back and forth on this a lot too, because there were in some instances, there's promos that are cut, or the ones albums that were sent just for radio play, things like that. but it's still damage to the record. So we have kind of a hard line on that. Go ahead.
I totally agree, Paul. And to me, it's very distracting and takes away from the album. Like, I personally just wouldn't, unless it was something really, really rare. And the only one I found was saw cut or corner cut or punched. I wouldn't want it for my collection. One of the things that I think is a big myth. I mean, part of it, there is some truth to it, but the overall idea that saw cut or corner cuts or punches are promos, and all of them are promos, I think is, a common misconception. I think the majority of saw cuts and things like that are actually, like Paul said, overstock. Something didn't get sold at the department store, gets sent back to the factory, and then they do something to it to signify.
Yeah, it's intentional damage is what it is. I mean, the whole purpose of the saw cut and the whole cut and the corner punch, and the corner cut is intentionally damaging the album so it can't be resold or returned. So what essentially is happening, for people who don't know, is an album will be released on its release date, and it'll go to Kmart maybe, and Kmart will try to sell it. But when Kmart doesn't sell it, they send it back to the factory. And then the factory will want to get rid of it, but they don't want to throw it away. So this album that was originally selling for $12, what they'll do is they'll send it back to Kmart and say, all right, you can sell this for $5 now. But if it doesn't sell, you can't send it back to us. This is now yours. If you want to sell it cheap, you can, but you can't send it back to us for a refund if you don't sell it. And the way they do that is they intentionally damage the album. They damage the cover so that they know that that's a restock. It can't be sent back. And the same reason was being done for the promos. They were sending albums to radio stations and didn't want the radio stations to turn around and sell the album. So they would cut the corner. So you can't sell this album. This is a damaged album here. So these are intentional, and they're not die cuts. So a die cut would be an album that's not a square. Maybe it's there's special albums where the cover is not a square. That is made by the factory.
LA Woman,
shape. Yeah, LA Woman, that's a good one. That's made in that shape. The corner cut, Ace Frehley's solo album is corner cut to intentionally damage it. And so, and the market reflects that. If you go on eBay, you'll notice that corner cut and saw cut and hole punched are significantly cheaper. And I've accidentally just in my I see a Cinderella Night Songs album and I'm all pumped up about it. And I just did this and I ordered it. I didn't really look at the pictures. It comes in, it's got a saw cut on it. I don't know. I mean, I don't even want it. It's just, it annoys me so much.
I agree.
I just got a punched album. I was talking to you guys before, but I bought an album called The Innocent from 1985. That's the name of the band. And Trent Reznor plays keyboards on it before Nine Inch Nails. So I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And I bought it, and it has a huge, not even like a little hole punch. It's like a 3/4 of an inch hole punch right in the corner. I didn't see a picture of when I bought it, which I don't really care for me. I thought it was cool, but clearly synth pop Trent Reznor was not selling well in 1985.
Yeah, I had a record store in Harrisonburg, Virginia that I go to, and they had a Eddie Hazel sealed record, beautiful condition. Like the corners were sweet. The shrink was in glossy shape, but it had a saw cut. And I know that there are some out there that don't have the saw cut, so I'm gonna hold up. I'm gonna wait until I get one that's truly sealed and complete. And that's really what we're saying is that, look, if you're looking for that highest grade in a record, if it has stickers on it, in most cases we can remove them, so that's not a really big deal, especially if they're on the shrink. But if you're going for super high grades, keep patient, stay on the path, look for something without the hole punch or the saw cut or whatever, and you will find one. You'll probably have to pay more, but it's going to be worth so much more getting that one in the future. So definitely, keep that in mind.
Right. And if you, like we were talking about before, and if you're an audiophile and that's the reason you're collecting vinyl, well, who cares? I mean, the album that is on my turntable the most has a saw cut. It's White Lion Pride, and it never comes out. I play it constantly, and it's got a saw cut, but I don't care. I also bought it without a saw cut just so I could have it. But the one I always play because the vinyl's great. Who cares?
Yeah, good blues stuff that saw cut. I just bought T-Bone Walker's Very Rare, which is has a version of Stormy Monday that I really like on there, and it's a first pressing, and it sounds awesome, but it has a corner cut. But who cares?
Yeah, if you're gonna be playing it in AAGS, I coined a phrase. You always buy 2 copies. Like you buy one to grab, one to slab, and so I buy everything in duplicates. I buy one that I'm going to be throwing on my table. That vinyl has to be perfect. The vinyl has to be the best sounding pressing that I can find, and then also be in the best condition possible. And then I have, but it could have issues with the sleeve. I don't care about that. But then I'm going to have another one on the shelf that is as in good a shape as possible, kind of like what Butch was going for. You always upgrade that copy until you get the absolute best. That's the one that you slab.
We're having a podcast about music, and I'm probably the first music podcaster to ever mention White Lion in good in a good light. But hey,
didn't bother me one bit.
Great album.
We have a soft spot for hair band music in this.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
right.
Drew, you mentioned earlier In Utero. So the thing I'm into is like rarity first pressings, or In Utero was limited edition clear vinyl when it first came out. As an audiophile, I know I've read like the different color wax and stuff is lesser quality. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes and no. So picture discs are an absolute no-no. But when it comes to colored vinyl, it's kind of a mixed bag. And the quick answer is that the more pressing plants that are pressing them, modern ones they're getting better at it. You're going to have the most noise when you're mixing colors, like the color swirls, like the marble colors, or especially the ones that it's like green and then a hard line and then white and then a hard line and then red. The transition between those pieces of vinyl that they had to put in that press, it has a seam, so to speak, and so you'll get a little bit more surface noise on those. But I've had black ones sound noisier, and I've had black ones sound completely quiet. And what I've found is that it's more about the material than it is the color of the vinyl. So, like for example, this John Coltrane, it is on this like clear, it's like a clear color, and this is what they feel at Analog Productions is the cleanest, purest, type of vinyl that you could press on. If you go to a Mobile Fidelity one step, it's going to be semi-transparent, but still have like a dark color to it. And it's a special vinyl mixture from, I can't remember the code for it, but it's like from Japan. And JVC, I think, invented it back in the 80s. And it sounds really good too. So you're going to get very little surface noise on those, like hardly any crackles and pops, unless it's defective. That was the long story. Short story is you put it on the turntable, and if it sounds good, it's good. That's my theory, though. I'm not going to, I don't usually delve into the, deep science behind, different things. And then, it can go down a rabbit hole very quickly. But if it sounds really good, you're good. All right, good discussion, guys. I think that is our time. So just to summarize, collect what you love. And if you love it enough, protect it. Buy one to grab, buy one to slab, have it slabbed. And when the one that you do slab, make sure that it's, in good of condition as you possibly can find. And that might take time to really seek out that one copy. So keep on with your journey. Keep on spinning the good stuff. And what about you guys on the way out here? What albums have you picked up recently? Just briefly.
Go ahead, Butch.
My most recent one is this Andrew Dice Clay
Nice.
I don't know why. I just for some reason someone actually sent VMG some comedian albums, Dave Chappelle and some other ones, and I was so taken with the idea of having. I remember growing up with the Adam Sandler album, which is on my want list, to get that. And then I thought it would be cool to get, the first pressing of 1989's Andrew Dice Clay album. So
cool, good pick, and that looks really glossy too.
Yeah, it's sealed because I'm
awesome.
obsessed with, if I ever crack it open, making sure it's in perfect condition to listen to it. But.
Awesome. What about you, Chad?
I was actually just looking at my eBay purchases here to remember what my last one was. Last one I bought was Pearl Jam Last Kiss 7-inch that was sealed, which I've never seen sealed before.
Cool.
So, and it was the last one I created a want list. Really, no rhyme or reason. 91 through 2000, like when I really loved Pearl Jam, and I remember going to the CD stores to buy the singles because they had like the B-sides that you could only get on the imports. At the time, it was like spending a small fortune on the import to get Yellow Ledbetter and the other the B-sides. They had the same artwork, which I thought was awesome. So I wanted to get all the 7-inch, and the last one was Last Kiss, which was individually numbered, and it was it's not hard to find. You can get it any time, but it was the first time I saw it sealed. So cool. I'm excited to get that.
Very cool. What about you, Paul?
So mine not quite as special, but last album that I bought was the Goonies soundtrack, and also
good soundtrack.
The Goonies Select Division for
nice.
For show. So I bought the Goonies soundtrack. A little bit of a story because my favorite song from the soundtrack is actually the song in the opening credits, the Fratelli Chase. When Chunk smashes the drink on the glass and that the piano intro that's playing, and the Fratelli Chase is not on the soundtrack. It wasn't released on vinyl. Yep, and it wasn't released on vinyl until 2 years later on this album called Cinematic Magic or something like that. So now I have to buy that. It's like a $2 record that I need to order. So it's my next purchase.
Hey, but for all the Goonie fans out there, that's some good research.
Yeah.
This came in yesterday. I had it on pre-order for a while. It is the 30th anniversary of the Breeders. This one, my lighting is really messing it up. But this one's been remastered from the original analog half-inch tape. It's cut half speed at Abbey Road. Some guys don't like Abbey Road because they do go to digital for their half speed cuts, but I'm really interested. This is supposed to be like the best sounding version of this Breeders album, so I'm really looking forward to that, listening to that.
As a Breeders novice, is the only Breeders song I know on that, which is Cannonball.
Cannonball.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's why you bought that one. That's why I went on the Columbia House and got that CD is because I like that one.
I love
song.
Cannonball.
They're on tour right now, I think. The Breeders.
They're getting back together. Yeah.
They're like opening for somebody. I just saw it recently.
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. Well, hey guys, appreciate all the time. Unfortunately we're out of it. Thank you for tuning into our podcast, Vintage Media Grading, the podcast. Keep checking back. We're going to have future episodes, as we mentioned before. The music that you're listening to right now is provided by Jacob Harwood of Element 88. Really cool up-and-coming band up in Rhode Island. So thank you to Element 88 for participating and contributing in this way. And we want feedback. Let us know if there's a topic that you want to hear us talk about, an album that you want us to review. And we look forward to seeing you all next time. Visit us at vmgvinyl.com and reach out to us if you have any questions about our grading services or vinyl record services, or if you just want to talk vinyl records, we are always available. And appreciate it. So signing off.